What's up, guys? This is Ray from Chaos Astrology. So this is going to be just an important transit talk I need to have. So lately I've been fixated on the physiological ramifications of some of the malefic signatures going on. But my forte, first and foremost, is obviously psychology or astropsychology. And I have kind of I've been aware of the growing trend of suicides and destructive, dangerous kind of behavior, impulsive even, or something that people are trying to like fight off themselves. And I've been warning people for quite some time, and yet again, I need to continue to remind myself with the Galactic Center psychic signature I have that none of you are actually going to process what I say or believe me until about a year or so after I actually start freaking out about it. Granted, freaking out about it, as I was joking with some of my friends, doesn't actually help people, take me seriously. But just a disclaimer, I'm hardcore mutable, and I get anxiety pretty bad. Anybody who's known me personally, I have dermatillomania, or I've struggled with dermatillomania throughout my life. That's a sub-faction of OCD, and I never was able to understand why. I pick my lips, like I have a little bit sore right there. I only do it on my lips, though. It's weird. I used to remember clawing my arm open, too. And then I tried pulling my hair out once, and I didn't like that. But for some reason, the whole causing actual wounds was my thing. I could never explain it. Was no like reoccurring environmental factors per se that caused it. And I used to go, I do it when I'm stressed sometimes, I do it when I'm sad, I do it when I'm angry. But I was never able to find a consistent, environmental trigger or anything that I was doing myself. Or like the thoughts weren't always there. Sometimes I just do it without thinking. And funny enough, some people who've been into like my alternative remedies and stuff, ever since it was actually the beginning of last year, I saw a citron quartz that was just being sold in like some little gas, tourist stop or whatever, when I was on the bus doing my crazy road trip stuff. And I saw that and I was like, ooh, and they were cheap. And I was like, well, I have some money, whatever, screw it. So I got it, and that's when I put it on. And that was shortly before I started dealing with the very intense paranormal discussions I had. And I was told to take this off. That I need to take it off. I need to comply and remove this from my neck. And fancy that, I didn't even think about it. I recall now, because I could see in my videos, like I used to even pick my nose when it was getting really bad. The paranormal spiritual phenomenon energy has been building and escalating substantially. It's at a peak right now. I'm not even going to say at its peak because it's not even done. And it's a synchronistic thing that happens each year. Winter solstice and stuff is when it's going to be in its prime. But even while I'm wearing this, and I'm even wearing a black tourmaline, which is supposed to help basically give me a bubble to avoid negative energy, I still am picking right here. I mean, that's like usually the start of the downward spiral. But I've been trying to avoid it, but I'm like, man, like I'm picking. So if my severe dermatillomania, for the hell of it, I'll just pop in a couple photos right here. But yeah, my severe dermatillomania was so bad, and my parents never understood why. And I even have scars on my arms still, because I used to claw. And somebody used to ask me why I'm doing that, and I'm like, I would just sit there and do it quietly in class, or at home in the dark or whatever. And my parents or people would ask me why I do that, and I say, because if I don't do this, I'm going to hurt you. So that's when I used to do that. And then when I used to just pick, it was because I was excited or whatever else, etc., etc. The only other person I've seen that has some sort of, uncontrollable behavior, disorder kind of thing that I've ever personally known is one of my cousins who actually is a Taurus, so polarity, the Scorpio, and that's obviously attributed to Pluto, and the whole controlling or abusive spirit energy would be represented by them. So it would make sense. He just incessantly rocks all the time. He's done this ever since he was a child. I used to speculate it was because my aunt would rock him in a rocking chair when he was young. But he's like 40 plus. When he gets mad and he starts screaming at people, he goes like this. Or like when he's playing video games, he goes like this. Or when he's playing music, and it's really bad. Like I don't know how he hasn't like thrown his neck out, because yeah. But it's interesting because after I started wearing this, I just stopped. My nose healed up and I stopped picking in general. And yeah, it was getting so bad, like I was starting to rip off like my whole nose, and it was starting to get all over here. Like every time I would rip it off, the scab off again, I would just rip more skin, and I was like starting to slowly peel my whole face off. And specifically, when I finally looked up what the Cicerone quartz does, since they were basically demanding me to take it off, it's supposed to keep them off of you. I've done thorough, discussions about this with my spiritism and astrology video. But I'm picking now. And I can tell, like, when I can't get the thoughts to stop, or, like, I can't handle being silent anymore, because I've been doing really good with that for the last couple of years. But that I'm getting back into that kind of... I'm not getting back into that habitual behavior, but I can tell that if they're the source of me picking, and they're the ones that are the source of me continually, like, having my mind race and, like, having noise going on, and I have these on, and I smudge regularly, and I, take exorcism serum, probably not as often as I should, but Boo does all the time, and he's totally cool, then that means that they're really intense, evidently so. So, one of my friends contacted me and said that one of his friends just a couple days ago tried to commit suicide and in the hospital. I posted, a couple of other things that people that are friends of friends that have killed themselves, or people just being totally psycho, because the destructive ideations or the destructive influence doesn't have to necessarily be self-inflicted all the time. The whole end goal, regardless of who we want to blame or, designate the origin of it, is just killing lives and destructive. Just like the Las Vegas shooter. I have audio of that too, where they said that this is a new record for the gods. And actually, when talking about the context of that moment, and then that was in Scorpio time, that means the polarity season, which will be Taurus season, which is when they're actually at their peak, by the way. Because even though Halloween, or, towards the fall is supposed to be, when the spirits, whatever, blah, 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 because of the mirroring realm of ours, when spring is our our abundance for lifetime, or our energy time, when physical life is booming, that's when the spirit energy is starting to dissolve. When all the agriculture is dying and everything seems to be dwindling and dying in the real world in the autumn and fall, that's when the spirit energy begins to ramp up again. So they're waxing to the full moon in the fall, and they're most powerful throughout Aquarius season and then into the spring. And then once we hit spring, that the shift in power changes, and the physical earth, this realm, takes more precedence and influence. So they don't have as much substantial influence with that. But I remember too, right before I actually started wearing this and going through the last really bad parts of my Saturn return early, like it was about a year ago, like literally end of January into February, I was fighting off severe depression, and it was starting to escalate into God, and I was like, I don't even know why I even bother. I was like, I should just off myself. Like, I had to continue to be like, and I'm like, of course, because I'm not cooperative even with myself. I'm like, fuck you, you're gonna do that. What the hell? And it's like, you made it all the way to 30 and now you're gonna do this? Fucking 27 club, pussy bitch. Like, no. So, the interesting thing is, that was before the paranormal stuff started really, really happening, and that was before I was totally convinced about some of the spiritism or spiritual theories with astrology. I just used to go like A plus B equals C with algebra. I never understood math, never understood the equations, but I was told that this is how this works. And with astrology, there's a north node and a south node. The south node is supposed to be your past lives or the origin of where you came from, either at birth in this life or whatever else. People can correlate, and as well as I have done before, patterns from previous times, and that you usually are here to do the opposite or to engage or experience the opposite of what you experienced prior. So you have the full spectrum of it. And yeah, you get the whole reincarnation amnesia thing. So the things that you learned, or the biases or whatever that you're holding on to attachments wise with your memory, don't actually basically sabotage what you're supposed to be experiencing in this life. So you get reincarnation amnesia. Some people who are intuitives or whatever, or go through certain things in their life, they wake up. Some of them don't necessarily know as like detailed and thorough as I do. And even, I'm not even going to say like I'm an ultimate authority on that, because I don't even like to make it sound like I am. But I am really, I'm hardcore skeptical about this first and foremost, and I'm just really trying to dissect, and I'm like, I've been trying to debunk everything from the get-go, and I'm like, if this is true, if you're not just dead and there's nothing after life, then why the hell does poltergeist shit happen? And maybe I need to prove if that shit's legit or not. Because all I remember when I was a child is that I had experiences and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but I also have a Neptune square sun too, so I could have imagined all that shit, and I could be mildly schizophrenic, and nobody even knows it. And even 4 years ago, I casted my own chart, and I wrote it out. I still have like the little notebook somewhere. Actually, I have booze back there. I don't think mine's right there though. But I kept emphasizing, and I even told like my family or whatever. I was like, so I'm just warning you guys now. Within the next year, probably 18 months, I'm apparently going to have a huge schizophrenic episode. And I'm going to lose my fucking marbles. And I'm just letting y'all know now. I was like, I don't think it's good to, you know, let me have access to anything that's dangerous. I should probably avoid having like a full-time job and being completely being the head of household more or less, and having the authority or the obligation to take care of really, really important things, because I might lose my mind a little bit. Me 4 years ago would look at me right now and say that I'm still fucking schizophrenic. And schizophrenics are, and if you source out like what shamans believe and stuff like that, that schizophrenics and any other kind of religious dogma, that schizophrenics and people who are mentally nuts are people that are highly connected to the spirit world and or fighting off spirit attachment and possession. So even though I didn't necessarily believe in any of that stuff, and I was a hardcore atheist, and what the hell are you talking about with this, Jesus this, Moses that, ghost crap, before, my really mundane, flat perspective interpretation of what was going to happen to me is fully accurate. I just couldn't explain why I was going to act schizophrenic. I just saw that I'm going to act schizophrenic. So as I've been more fixated or focusing on the origin of the disease, like Hippocrates and Plato would suggest that you do, which that's the ancient and medieval astrology, I've tried to figure out the origin. And I'm like, okay, so I know the formula with like polarity and origin. And I'm like, but what the hell does that planet represent? I understand what it represents on a mundane level, and I know what they represent on a psychological level, but what the fuck else is it? Because if I don't have any kind of neurological things going on that could actually attribute to what that translates to, then that means there has to be some sort of external forces. And the fact that it's usually a transit to natal, like something coming conjunct with like planets that are associated with your mind or your subconscious, specifically mutable, then if I was crazy all along, then why did the crazy only come out when that conjunct? I know some things do that depending on the elemental balance, and then why did this event only happen when these things happened? And what do those planets mean, or the mythology mean in ancient astrology or in general? And I kept looking back, and they're all attributed to something to do with the lords, gods, or whatever, deities that control the spirits in spirit world. And me being born in a haunted town and stuff that's now famous, and everybody goes there for ghost hunting because Ghost Adventures, went to Virginia State and got scared or whatever. I was living there till I was 7 years old, and apparently I used to experience all kinds of stuff, and I even went back, as an adult, and I'm like, yeah, this town, it does feel like you're actually treading through like water, because the energy's so thick. And even then, like, I caught like vague things on my camera before, but I've been trying to, be wannabe ghost hunter for quite some time, throughout maybe like the last 10 years or so. It was before Ghost Adventures became a big thing, because when they went to my town, they were like, these fucking assholes, they live in Vegas too, I live in Vegas, and these guys went to my hometown and now they're special? What the hell? So, I was just like, why don't I ever catch anything? And I didn't even try to do it this last year. I just felt like there was really literally something on top of me, which people have actually been contacting me and saying they're feeling the same thing. And again, remember the whole year in advance thing? Now, yeah. So I totally can relate. But I was like, dude, maybe I need to, like, ask it what the fuck it wants. Because apparently there's something here. I mean, even for years, I've lived in this house for about 7 or 8 years. My mother and, like, my brother and everybody who lives downstairs has said that they see, like, a shadow thing, like, running through the living room and stuff. And for whatever reason, throughout my life, too, in certain places, like, I don't know what it is. Like, I just feel like when it's dark down there, that I feel like something's staring and then following me up the stairs. And I have had my hallway door like shook and violently before. And I used to just think that, oh, that's, some sort of shadow energy projected on from my really psychotic, ex that was here that has really hardcore mental problems, which is totally plausible. Because a lot of it stopped once he left, but even up till, I don't do it anymore because I kind of understand what's downstairs, and I also understand they can't see, and I don't understand why I would be scared thinking that they're watching me and they're following me if they can't even fucking see. But my family's even attested that they've randomly, out of nowhere, for no reason, I don't say anything or anything, I just rush up the stairs like fast, I just run. And then I come in here and I immediately have to shut the door like something's literally following me and it's like life or death. And then as soon as I get behind the door and lock it, I just walk in here like there's nothing. And Booze even looked at me like, dude, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. I've never explained it. I just get like that sometimes and I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I'm good. I've even done that in some of my EVP sessions or whatever. And I'm like, I'm good. And when I decided to do that in my first EVP session, actually, I said, yeah, I think I need to go. I need to get out of here. And then literally when I had the actual Ghost Box app on, something came up to me and said, hello. And I said, oh my God. And I started to freak out. I'm like, oh, maybe you guys are like, starting to be attracted to me because I'm supposed to be like, like a magnet for lost souls. And he's like, is that an invitation? And I'm like, oh, hell no. And I'm pretty damn sure that thing came home with me. And yeah, I got rid of it in May. But I mean, yeah. So basically what I'm getting at is that I've noticed that I've dealt with depression or destructive kind of ideation for a long time. And until I was actually either, coincidentally stumbling onto solutions or whatever, that I had no idea why it was happening. And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that they possessed my friend and he was going to shoot me when he lost it, last Virgo season, they were getting really close. And I'm usually really defiant, but they were starting to definitely make some headway with me thinking maybe I should just off myself, like seriously. Like they've been trying to creep, like, crawl up that tree for like over a decade. But specifically, now I remember that too, that started when Saturn was going over my ascendant. So that would have been when it was in Gemini, mutable naturally, and also that is one of the malefics. But right now, things that are going on, there's specific signatures that are stressing people out, making people crazy, and mental instability coincide with, spirit possession, either or because it's a symptom that arises from actually being psychically attacked, or if that somebody's actually just kind of losing it because of environmental factors, and then they just become basically targets for them. I'm not entirely sure which way that actually goes. I know that they can escalate insanity, but and again, me picking my lip is kind of a test to that. But right now, so my topic's suicide by spiritual crisis. So if you're watching this, or if you actually think that I'm totally full of shit, and I totally, respect and can sympathize and agree with you on some level, that I sound like I'm completely nuts. But trust me, I assure you, I've been in hardcore denial and been trying to, that's why it's all publicized, all on my YouTube channel, my actual Raereinhartz Chaos Astrology YouTube channel. You can go sift through, I have like an actual playlist of all of them. Yes, it's lengthy. Yes, I spent probably the equivalent of a month, maybe, I'm just ballparking, of talking to dead things and uploading the audio. That's why I also have my podcast thing, the Plutonian astrology thing. And that was primarily not obviously for entertainment factors or anything, because obviously I'm horrible at piecing that together and being actually entertaining. But it was strictly for raw and unfiltered evidence. So it's not for people to, get excited about. It's legitimately for other people that are like me. Like I instantly think of Peter Novak or whatever, which I respect him as an astrologer, even though he's been a smart-ass asshole to me, but that's an ego thing he's obviously needs to deal with. But he was kind of, quote-unquote, taking me seriously here and there when I would, be accurate with some of my mundane predictions. But then once I mouthed off, like, oh, well, by the way, this is the cause of it, or this is what's influencing it. And he goes, oh, crazy kooky shit, crazy kooky bitch. Nope, you just lost all credibility. So for people like him, I totally sympathize with him because I was exactly like that. Unfortunately, I have Pisces, Pisces ruling like near my 10th house. And just because of the alignments in my chart and the way that the transits have gone, it's basically, I'm a huge open, like, door for dead things. And it started to get to the point where you can't deny it, and if you continue to deny it, and you start holding in, like, your depression or whatever, because we've been stigmatized more or less to just go get a pill and shut up about it. The more that you hold it in and you don't actually try to search for why you're feeling like that, those are the people that are going to commit suicide or going to die. Like, specifically, just yesterday in Seattle, there's like the little ferries that go to, like the San Juan Islands or whatever, and there was an account of some Jeep Cherokee showing up about 7:50 in the morning. I looked at the chart. It looks like that this individual they had the mental illness, or the illness midpoint conjunct with Mercury. Capricorn is the Nostradamus kind of mentality, by the way, so we have Capricorn Mercury going on. And yeah, so with other things like that now manifesting, people are starting to feel stressed or whatever, and the typical Capricorn ideation is, am I successful enough? Am I doing good? Am I stable? Is my reputation fine? And finances do go into a lot of that. So with having Pluto, Black Moon, Lilith specifically in Capricorn as well, that's the negative Plutonian ideations, and the Black Moon, Lilith putting the seeds of the negative ideations in your head. So this person was there at 7:50. The ferry wasn't going to leave till I think like 10. And then after they waited there for a while, they then apparently pulled out and then went back to where the entrance is to pay to get on the ferry in the loading dock area. And then they went out, and then they came back in, and then they started driving really erratically. And about 9:40 in the morning, it said 9:45, but I put 9:40 because that looks like when the actual death occurred, or the actual act to cause death happened. The car just was waiting where you're supposed to be the loading dock. The ferry wasn't even there. They just put their car in drive, hit the gas, and broke through the barrier and drove off into the pier and drowned without even trying to get out. So it was obviously intentional. So the stresses or ideations of things going on hectic in their life, them not actually addressing it, and then the aspects, the illness midpoint, those ones fluctuate because they're actually supposed to be midpoints of certain planets and house alignments. So they can change within hours, minutes. The second that conjuncted that Mercury, that person started to get these ideations. Regardless if that person had spirit attachment at the time already, or if something just pounced on them from that time, because I know that area. Like, I've been to the, underground tour of Seattle area, and I know how that is, and that place is crawling with all kinds of negativity. Everywhere is, actually. That thing pounced at the moment that it had an opportunity to feed into the negative ideation, and that person just somehow was directly, basically coaxed, either if they were completely spirit possession or whatever else, to just kill themselves without warning. That's actually why there's statistically a lot of suicides have no warnings. I've always thought that was fascinating, because I've always been, interested in suicide and stuff like that, hence because I'm projecting. But I was like, so why the fuck are the people that are always successful with suicide attempts, how come there's never any previous warnings? Because even with myself, like, if you were to look in some, like, my journals and diaries and stuff like that, even my sketchbook, like, it was constantly, like, drawing stuff about, like, mutilating myself, killing other people for years and years and years. So, I mean, if anybody would have been nosy, and my mom at one point or another was, and then she tried to force me on antidepressants, which didn't help, but there should be some, if it's a constant thing, like a signature thing that you're born with, that you're going to have depression, like me, then it'll be a continuous symptom. If somebody just out of nowhere, there's no, they're not like in the closet with everything that they think about and feel, and there's no signs, that's absolutely caused by spirit possession or spirit influence. So right now, we have a couple things going on. My friend that's a Vedic / West, he uses both associations, Vedic and Western astrology. He says that when the North Node conjuncts the Moon, so your North Node, when the Moon is in the same sign as that conjunct, that sometimes is a signature for suicide. So, and specifically with spirits influencing it. I have also talked to him, and I thought about it. I've seen numerous times that Black Moon Lilith conjunct with the North Node can particularly have the same kind of effects. Also, Hades' signature conjunct the North Node. If there's a lot of mutable on the angles or whatever in that person's chart, that was actually the chart for the quote-unquote Las Vegas shooter thing. And when it said a new record for the gods, and I saw the Hades signature conjunct the North Node, that was enough for me, obviously. By the way, I don't know how well you can see that, but all the parts in blue are the natal, and the black is transit. So if the North Node if your North Node is conjunct with Black Moon Lilith or the Moon, so if you have a North Node right now in Capricorn, or if you just actually track Moon transits, then when that conjuncts, that's when you have the potential to like instantly feel like you're going to do something reckless. And specifically too, if you have a Cancer Moon, because Hades is in Cancer right now, and it will be in opposition with Pluto and Black Moon in Black Moon Lilith. So if you had a Cancer North Node and then the Moon goes into Cancer, that could be a signature for depression, or you like just unpredictably and off the wall just deciding to do something drastic and hurt yourself. Also, Pluto, Neptune, or Black Moon Lilith being in opposition with Hades. So right now in transit, we have Hades in Cancer, opposition Black Moon Lilith, Mercury, and Pluto. So 2 of the ones that I have listed right there are actually in transit right now. So transits can affect everyone. Some people will, be better off than others, but it can affect everyone the same way. Hence why there's a huge surge in people's overdosing and suicides and destructive behavior. And so then we look at Mercury, if it's conjunct with the transits, with the illness midpoint, the struggling stumbling stone, which is another midpoint, or Neptune. Neptune's obviously with the realm where the ethers come from. If it's conjunct with your Mercury, they're whispering in your ear to hurt yourself or do something destructive. And now that I think about it, I'm kind of just blurting this out. I would be it sounds totally plausible that like eating disorders and stuff like that and identity dysphoria, trying to confuse them would actually be a symptom of ethers as well. And then Neptune being conjunct with the Moon and Black Moon Lilith as well in transit. So the other thing you need to worry about too is that when a Grand Cross and a T-square are simultaneously happening, so when you look at a chart and you notice that like if you look at basic even astro charts or whatever, you'll see like red lines, or a T-square, it looks like an actual legitimate triangle like that. That's stress and tension. But the Grand Cross is the stress and tension plus there needs to have some sort of instant life changes. It's like basically pushing the bird out of the nest, more or less. So if you are in denial about this and having a crisis, and it's reaching points where they're actually making headway with pretty much pulling you down into the downward spiral or whatever, the abyss, if a Grand Cross in transit, as well as a T-square is going on, which is currently going on right now, the Grand Cross is what triggers you to actually act out on it. And there's a Grand Cross going on right now, and that's likely what killed that lady yesterday. And simultaneously, when they recovered the car, there was another truck that was randomly like teetering off the edge of the viaduct in Seattle, the Alaskan Way. Those things have double barrier cement walls. He would have had to hit that really hard to actually make it over that barrier. So there's no way, and that's like a straight shot. There's absolutely no way, because I've thought about that. I'm like, wow, I wonder if this upper part of the viaduct will ever collapse on this one. I don't know if I want to go on this anymore. And I've thought about it, and they even just rebuilt it. So, it's solid. And that car was teetering off the edge simultaneously while divers were actually trying to recover the Jeep that was not even miles away off the pier where the ferries are. And that coincides with there being a lot of negative energy in the same focalized area. So yeah, right now we have Uranus, Eris, and Pallas in a stellium conjunction, and we having it squaring Black Moon Lilith, Pluto, and Mercury. So squaring, obviously, and it's creating T-squares. So that's the T-square that's needed for the stress and tension. And the second that there's any kind of alignments, Grand Cross, especially if it's specifically in the angle houses, so the 1st, the 4th, and the 7th, and the 10th, that is the immediate signature for somebody to just like drive their Jeep off the pier. Those sorts of things. Or attack other people. Or overdoses. And that needs to be addressed. I guess I'll go into this a little bit later. But so if you are one of those people that's kind of in denial, don't believe a damn word I'm saying, but you are starting to feel or can project or associate yourself and understand with some of the symptoms that I'm talking about, then perhaps maybe you should have some sort of therapy intervention, or just contact me for a reading even. I mean, I make sure that satisfaction is guaranteed or whatever else. What could it hurt? You could either just continue to be stubborn and ignore this and continue to go, I'm an atheist and this is stupid and I'm not crazy and blah, 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 science this and real stuff that. You can continue to go about that, and hopefully you have a strong constitution and they don't actually get to you and you don't off yourself or hurt somebody you care about. But it's worth looking into, Because every person who hasn't necessarily believed what I'm talking about or has been in denial about this, when they thoroughly talked to me about this and I looked at the charts, I started explaining, so is this happening to you around this time? Is this happening to you around this time? They're really, really freaked out, and it's eerie for them because I'm able to specifically pan out like an accurate timeline of the kind of symptoms and stuff that's happening. And when I tell them how I figured that out and what I attribute the origin of that to, the origin of the disease, it's all spiritual. And then even if I wanted to go to another step, assuming that they have everything to protect themselves, I could easily go on a webcam live and I can turn on my ghost app if I needed to, and I could gladly start antagonizing the thing that's making them like that. And if for the people who are really hardcore in denial. So please share this with anybody. If you're an advocate for not fucking letting people die and you're dealing with this, or you know somebody or whatever that is dealing with depression or something of this sort, or you're worried about somebody, just ask them. Just take 30 minutes and watch this video. And yeah, if you don't care about your life, then go ahead and go about your business. If you'd like some help, then hit me up. Raereinhartz Chaos Astrology.